On the night of February 1st, 2026, an 84-year-old woman was taken from her home in Tucson, Arizona. Not robbed, not threatened, taken, in the middle of the night, from a locked house, in a quiet suburban neighborhood, by a masked man carrying a backpack and a holstered weapon. And here is what investigators know, and what nobody is saying loudly enough. He had been there before. The same man, same mask, same door. A different day. No backpack that time. Just watching. Just checking. Just making sure everything was exactly where he needed it to be. This was not a crime of opportunity. This was planned. And the question that has kept the FBI, the Pima County Sheriff's Department, and the entire country awake for weeks is not just who took Nancy Guthrie. It's why everything about this case feels like something else entirely. Picture this. Somewhere in Tucson at 2:28 in the morning, a pacemaker stops syncing. Not because it failed, because it moved too far from the phone it was connected to. The app registered the disconnect. The timestamp was saved automatically. Nobody was watching it in real time. Nobody knew what it meant until hours later. That timestamp, 2:28 a.m., is currently the closest thing investigators have to the exact moment Nancy Guthrie was taken from her home. A medical device designed to keep a woman alive became the only witness to her disappearance. But to understand what that moment means, we have to start 24 hours earlier. January 31st, 2026, a Saturday. Nancy Guthrie spends the evening the way she spent most evenings, with family. She takes an Uber to her daughter Annie's home at 5:32 p.m. Dinner, conversation, the ordinary rhythms of a family that lives close together and looks out for each other. At 9:48 p.m., her son-in-law Tommaso Cioni drives her home. He waits in the driveway until she is inside. He watches the garage door close behind her. Everything is normal. Everything is fine. He drives away. And somewhere in the darkness of the Catalina foothills, a quiet, affluent suburb north of Tucson, where the houses sit spread apart on desert lots and the streets go silent after 10, something is already in motion. The doorbell camera at Nancy Guthrie's home detects movement at 2:12 a.m. Here is the first detail that matters. Nancy Guthrie did not have an active subscription with her camera provider, which means the camera detected the motion but did not save the footage. The software registered it. The video is gone. 16 minutes later, 2:28 a.m., her pacemaker app disconnects from her phone. She is gone. By the time her family arrives at 11:56 a.m. the next morning, after she fails to appear for a virtual church service she never missed, the house is quiet. Her phone is still inside. Her medication is still inside. Her personal belongings are exactly where she left them. There is no sign of where she went. There is blood on the front porch. It is hers. On February 10th, 9 days after Nancy Guthrie disappeared, the FBI released footage from her Nest doorbell camera. A figure, masked, armed, approaching the front door in the early hours of February 1st, carrying a black Ozark Trail backpack. Described as a male, approximately 5'9" to 5'10" inches tall. He approaches the camera. He tries to cover the lens, first with his hand, then by breaking off a piece of shrubbery from a potted plant near the door and pressing it against the camera. Calm, methodical, unhurried. This is not a man who is nervous. This is not a man improvising. Every movement is deliberate. Every action is considered. He is not checking whether anyone is watching. He already knows, and then, here is the detail that changes everything. Sources familiar with the investigation told ABC News that the image of the suspect without a backpack, standing at her front door, was captured on a day before February 1st. He came twice, the first time with no backpack, no weapon visible, just standing at the door of an 84-year-old woman's home, watching, measuring, learning the layout of the camera, the position of the entrance, the exact angle of the lens he would later try to block. The second time he came prepared. Let's talk about what a kidnapping actually looks like. A kidnapping is reactive. It is fast. It is desperate. It is someone making a decision in a moment, an opportunity seized, a plan improvised, a crime that escalates beyond its original intention. This was not that. Consider what investigators have confirmed. The doorbell camera was disabled at 1:47 a.m., 25 minutes before the camera detected movement. The internet service in Nancy Guthrie's neighborhood experienced disruptions that night. Multiple neighbors reported their home security camera footage from that night is missing or marked unavailable. Authorities have reportedly asked residents about unusual connectivity problems around February 1st. Someone cut the digital eyes of an entire neighborhood before moving in. That requires knowledge, equipment, time, planning. This was an operation, and operations have architects. The first ransom note arrived at TMZ and 2 local Tucson television stations at 1:12 p.m. on February 3rd, $4 million in Bitcoin. By Thursday, February 5th, if the deadline passed, $6 million by Monday, February 9th. The FBI and Pima County Sheriff's Department confirmed they were taking the notes seriously. Savannah Guthrie, Nancy's daughter, the co-anchor of NBC's Today Show, suspended her broadcasting duties and released a video alongside her siblings. She looked directly into the camera. She said, "We will pay. Both deadlines passed. No contact. No proof of life. No confirmation that the people sending the notes were the same people who had Nancy." Because here's what investigators were quietly wrestling with. Multiple ransom notes arrived, from different sources, with different demands. A California man was arrested on February 5th for sending a fake ransom demand, entirely unrelated to the actual case. An anonymous tipster claimed to know Nancy's location south of the border and demanded Bitcoin for the information. TMZ received a 4th email from someone claiming to have seen her in Mexico. The ransom landscape was chaos. Real notes, fake notes, opportunists, criminals, people exploiting a family's desperation for their own gain, and buried somewhere inside all of that noise, the actual people who took her, silent, watching the circus, waiting. On February 15th, 2 weeks after the disappearance, investigators found a pair of black gloves discarded approximately 2 miles from Nancy Guthrie's home. They resembled the gloves worn by the masked figure in the doorbell footage. DNA was extracted. The sample was run against CODIS, the FBI's national database containing over 19 million offender profiles. No match. Then on March 4th, a month after the disappearance, the DNA from those gloves was traced through further analysis to a local restaurant worker, who had absolutely no connection to the case. The most promising physical evidence in the entire investigation, a pair of gloves that looked exactly like what the suspect was wearing, belonged to someone who had nothing to do with it. A dead end, dressed perfectly as a breakthrough. Pima County Sheriff Chris Nanos has been careful with his words throughout this investigation. Measured, deliberate, the language of a man who knows how much weight each sentence carries. But certain things have slipped through. He believes the home was targeted, not randomly selected, specifically chosen. He has stated publicly that investigators have held strong beliefs about what happened since the initial days of the investigation. He has not ruled out the possibility that whoever did this could strike again. A former FBI forensic expert who analyzed the available evidence noted that the blood splatter evidence suggests Nancy was wrapped up, which would be consistent with someone being moved rather than someone who fell. A Mexican activist group, Madres Buscadoras de Sonora, announced they were searching for Nancy south of the border. U.S. Border Patrol and Mexican law enforcement were both briefed on the case and given the doorbell camera footage due to Tucson's proximity to the border. An anonymous letter sent to TMZ claimed the writer had seen Nancy in Mexico 5 days after her disappearance and had been told to stay quiet about it. None of it confirmed, none of it disproven. 6 weeks into this investigation, with the FBI, the Pima County Sheriff's Department, U.S. Customs and Border Protection, and search and rescue teams all working simultaneously, here is what remains unknown. Where is Nancy Guthrie? Who came to her door twice? Why was she specifically targeted? Who disabled the neighborhood's internet that night? Why did both ransom deadlines pass in silence? What did the blood splatter pattern actually show? And the question that sits underneath all of the others, the one that the sheriff hasn't answered directly and the FBI hasn't addressed publicly, if this was a ransom kidnapping, why has no one with actual proof of life made contact? Because here is what experienced investigators know about ransom kidnappings. The point is the money. The hostage is leverage. You make contact, you prove they're alive. You negotiate, that is the entire structure of the crime. The silence doesn't fit. The cryptocurrency demands. The neighborhood internet disruption. The pre-surveillance visit. The disabled camera. The methodical calm of the figure at the door. This has the architecture of something organized. Something with resources. Something that was built carefully over time by people who understood exactly what they were doing. That is not a kidnapping. That is something else. And as of today, nobody knows what. Nancy Guthrie is 84 years old. She has a pacemaker. She has limited mobility. She needs daily medication. Her daughter stood in front of a camera and told the world that her mother lives in constant pain, that without her medicine, she suffers. That was 6 weeks ago. The reward stands at $1 million. The tip lines have received over 55,000 calls. The FBI is still investigating. The family is still waiting. And somewhere in Tucson, or somewhere beyond it, the answers exist. In someone's memory, in someone's silence, in someone who knows exactly what happened on the night of February 1st and has chosen, for whatever reason, not to say. This channel is not here to tell you what happened. We don't know. Nobody outside the investigation knows. What we know is this: an elderly woman was taken from her home in the middle of the night by someone who had been there before. Someone who came prepared. Someone who cut the neighborhood's eyes before they moved. That level of planning has a purpose, and that purpose has not been explained. If you have any information about Nancy Guthrie's disappearance, the Pima County Sheriff's tip line is 520-882-7463. The reward is $1 million. Someone knows something.